Can you hear me? Is that better? Welcome to this session, which is really looking at the legal race for blockchain. I think as many innovators in this building today, there is always a small tension between getting that blockchain product at the door of that market and talking to the regulators and the legals. But without getting our legals all sorted, we are never going to get these products out the door. And with new and emerging technology, there's always that tension. But blockchain brings waves of other complexities into there, whether you're talking about distributed trust, try talking to your risk and compliance teams about that, or even about tokens, stable coins, and cryptos. There are all these pitfalls that if you are developing government products or business products with blockchain, we need to get these terms right. And we really need to get these guys on board who are understanding where the complexities lie and can help us as innovators navigate through there. So I'm Caroline Thomas, 25 years as an innovator, bringing new technologies into markets worldwide. I'm delighted really to have these gentlemen here because you all bring expertise, not just in legals and regulations from a range of different countries, but also on the real specifics and the hard bits about blockchain technologies. So I thought what we'd like to do here is if you all introduce yourselves quickly and tell us where you think that hot legal issue is, and then we'll open up the debate. Should we go with you first, Tobias?
Yeah, can you hear me? So hi, I'm Tobias. I'm co-founder of Stocker. So we are basically an alternative investment platform where we help issuers to issue securities or all financial instruments with the help of blockchain. And obviously this entails a range of challenges in terms of regulatory control and what we are seeing right now is that there are beautiful laws out there, but in the end, when the regulator or when the authorities don't come along, then it's very difficult to implement. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges, is the incentive game of regulators, and then obviously later on adoption of current regulatory regimes to the new world of blockchain, because it's totally differently working than the current financial system, and there we see the main challenges in the future, and we hope this will come and happen very, very quickly, right? But it will take time.
It'll take time, but let's see how quick. And
okay. Bom dia a todos. Buenos dias a todos. Good morning. I'm Flavio Soares from Inleia. I was born in Brazil, but I've been here in Barcelona for the last 30 years of my life, working with law, and especially intellectual property and the crypto software that we have these days. So following what Tobias was saying before, it's a very nice moment, at least for us lawyers, to get on the top of innovation is dragging us to become tech lawyers. That's exactly what we're going to be. We are ready there. We have another friend from Barcelona here. And we are expecting the administration to step up as well and help us to, give birth to this new society, economy, whatever that means. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Morning. Well, my name is Xavier, but I have to make a disclaimer. I'm another Xavier. Can you hear me?
No.
Should should we jump to Nicola and then come back to you while you?
Hello, mine is working. I'm Nicola Masella. I work at Storm Partners. We are a consulting firm and service provider in Switzerland. We do advise many crypto projects, from token issuance to exchanges, launchpads, DeFi protocols, and so on. Really happy to be here with you. I share your views. It's actually still a context that is characterized by regulatory uncertainty. We hope that, and we see also this uncertainty is decreasing as new regulations come out. And we hope that the regulator will be able to find a way in which to regulate crypto assets, protect investors and consumers, but also don't, let's say, put a stop on innovation and on these great entrepreneurial initiatives that are coming out.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me now? Okay. Good morning. Well, my name is Xavier, but I have to make a disclaimer. I'm another Xavier. I'm replacing my colleague Xavier Garcia, who cannot make it. My name is Xavier Foz. I am from a Spanish law firm named Roca Junyent. I'm a banking and finance lawyer. We focused on fintech and blockchain. And well, I think that the hotspots right now, at least in Spain, deals with anti-money laundering issues relating all the crypto assets, but also, as Nicola was saying, the protection of the investors. And we are seeing that the regulator is preparing well, some regulations on the advertising on cryptocurrency. And well, we also have new developments like NFTs that are also introducing a lot of challenges to our legal system. So we'll see.
I think that's a good introduction, isn't it? And when we were speaking earlier, I think we were mentioning how, as regulators around the world, countries are looking at each other to see who's first in this race for blockchain, or who goes first, or who's doing something smart. I was going to start from the other end now with Nicola, with Switzerland and with Zug. They're seen as being pioneers, really, in some of the, are they laws? Are they regulations? Are they facilities or sandboxes? What is it that's helping Switzerland have a niche, if you like, for regulation, particularly in blockchain?
That's a good question. I would say multiple factors, as of course a choice of a jurisdiction of a country is always a complicated matter. But let's say that a game changer has been the FINMA guidelines on token offerings. In particular, FINMA has been the first regulatory authority to define these three categories of tokens: payment, utility, and security tokens. And they opened the door to all utility token issuance and these projects that basically they do a sort of crowdfunding, asking their community to give them the financial resources to develop their platform. And this is a bit, at least a minimum degree of regulatory certainty has been given by these guidelines, and also by the open approach that FINMA adopted. So you can go actually to FINMA and ask them to open a dialogue on your project, and even to issue what is called a no action letter. So a letter that basically says you are not concerned by financial regulations and you're not obliged to obtain a license or an authorization to operate your business.
So a range really of different facilities there that you're bringing together, I think.
I think, yeah, the main factor that incentivizes companies and projects to come to Switzerland is the regulatory context. And then, of course, also the fact that in Zug there is a Crypto Valley. I'm also a member of the Crypto Valley and of the Crypto Valley Regulatory Working Group, and of the banks and other service providers that are needed. Of course, this is also an important thing that in Switzerland that you are able to have.
It's really interesting, because I think, coming from a British perspective, where we have the FCA and the sandboxes and places there, and some of the big banks like Barclays, where I worked, they're trying to ease open that ability to have like a safe harbor conversation. So when you are launching your new blockchain services, you have a discrete conversation. And that way people really can share, as lawyers, as regulators, what is tolerable and what isn't. But also, I think we are looking at the Catalonian region as well, because in events like this, I think the Catalonian and Barcelona regional is really putting a flag up for blockchain. And there aren't that many European countries or regions that are pulling that approach. So who's first?
Well, I think that we have both levels. We have really the private sector pushing hard in Barcelona and Catalonia in general and Spain in order to develop a cluster of blockchain companies. But it's true that the regulators have been more followers than really pioneers in terms of regulation. They have been, well, very conservative. They have been looking at what ESMA and EBA were issuing in terms of guidelines. And at the end, I think that they have really focused now more on the protection of the investors, are really putting a very clear framework in terms of issuances. They are trying to fit all these new developments in the current legal framework, and they had not been very active in publishing guidelines beyond just warnings for the public on the risk of the investments in crypto assets. But having said that, we have to highlight that this year, finally, the regulatory sandbox has been approved in Spain.
Right.
And it is really a good place for these projects to test and to have this interaction with the regulator. It's also true that with the first experience, with the first cohort of projects that we have been advising there, perhaps the regulator is being too strict in terms like data protection and anti-money laundering issues for very early stage projects, which at the end makes that these companies, these startups, had to invest a lot in complying with all regulations without knowing even if this product will reach the market anyway. So I think that we have to fine tune still the sandbox, but at least we have now the tool in Spain. It's good news.
Yeah. And again, I think when we're looking at the global blockchain landscape, there's lots of financial and other new products coming out. But the theme of this event is democracy. So I think changing governments and democracy using technology is pretty much up there on the let's have an ambitious target, I think. So it's really interesting to see events like these and work that's going on behind the scenes to make it happen. Flavio, you?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to repeat what Xavier just said, because since we are in the same jurisdiction, it's basically, that's the reality that we see at the moment. But I would make a question here. Who was in the Pandora Papers? None of you had your name in the Pandora Papers? Well, I'm glad to see that I wasn't the only one that wasn't there. So, and why am I saying this? We don't need more regulation down to the ground where we are. We are already under control. We have a mobile phone, we have a bank account, and you got the RES. It's just putting the crypto in your mobile phone, and every payment that you do with this credit card is going to go straight on notice to the IRS. The Hacienda in Spain now, when they're coming to see you, they say, you've been in Amsterdam, and out of 5 days, you didn't spend your money. How you were there? Because you bought the ticket and you bought your hotel, but you didn't spend a buck on that, a single euro. How come? So they know exactly what we're doing. They're not saying that we are under surveillance, which we are. So it's more than anything else, no more, revolving laws, but being bold and stepping out like Switzerland did with Zuck, like 4 or 5 years ago. We are doing now with Alastria and Sandbox that has been created maybe beginning of this year. And maybe on a very, very, very financial place like Luxembourg, this thing is going to be, that's where we're going to learn. In other words, everybody is looking at each other in a kind of wait and see situation and saying, okay, if he doesn't commit a mistake, I would do that. But that one commit a mistake, I'm not going to do what he did, or what she did. So it's a little bit of everybody's looking at each other to see how we're going to dance. But nobody knows what kind of music is going to be played, that being the laws.
Yes, it's emerging quickly, isn't it? And there is a race going on. So it's going to be interesting to see who moves fastest first or gets the edge.
I
But
think so.
Flavio, you're both an innovator, and you were saying earlier,
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
and with a background in legals and law as well.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the legal race for getting blockchain out there, how are you navigating with your you might want to explain more about your marketplace,
Yeah.
Stoker.
So basically we are operating out of Luxembourg, and
Yep.
contrary to Switzerland, there is no sandbox
Yes.
regime. And I think sandbox regimes are useful in general. So the regulator can understand the risks and opportunities of a certain technology, but like country solutions will not help, because like capital markets rules are European wide,
Yes.
right? And even when I issue something in Switzerland, I have like to comply with European capital market rules, unless you want to only target like Swiss investors and not European investors. So we think like the sandboxing or like the possibilities have to come on European level. And that's what we are actually also doing at Stocker as a marketplace where you can, as an investor, a professional investor, or retail investor, invest into small and medium-sized companies, but also in other alternative investment products. We are complying always like with European capital market rules, right? And we are looking more on the European landscape and say, okay, what is possible already under current securities laws? Where can a passport like to other countries? But then obviously then the hurdle comes, you have to talk to the regulator, right? The laws are out there, right? Everybody thinks, okay, securities can be issued on blockchain, but it is not written specifically in the law. So the question is, some regulators say, hey, you cannot do it because it's not allowed. But this is not our understanding of law, right? The understanding of law is that you can do everything which is not forbidden. And in this sense, yeah, we play with European capital market rules, and we pick a little bit also like the jurisdictions where we do issuances. So we don't do issuances all out of Luxembourg, at least like from a regulatory perspective. So we go to the BaFin in Germany, we go to the AMF, which is a very, very, very innovative and understanding authority. Astonishingly, it's in Paris. We have very good experiences with the Paris regulator. And then there are regulators who claim to be super innovative, but in the end, when you talk to them, it's not the case. So there's always a marketing side and there's like a reality side to it. Yeah.
I think we were also having a discussion earlier about the words and the jargon that's used in blockchain and crypto, whether you're talking about tokens or securities, and how can we really get the different stakeholders together to have a common language? Because if you're talking about securities to a bank, then their hackles are up and saying you can't even use that term. And if you're using tokens, then people think it's an actual asset, when actually it might be a facility. Who wants to take up the term of jargon, I think?
I think it's a tricky question, because even in the European Union, we don't have a common interpretation on the figure, for instance, of financial instrument. We have a harmonization, we have directives, but at the end, each state has its own interpretation of that concept based on all the legal tradition that it has. So even we are discussing with the traditional concepts, now we have to cope with all these new developments, when even, well, the scholars sometimes are mixing cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, digital coins. So at the end, I think we have to find some common substrate where we can build together and apply some kind of common sense, no, at the end, which is also the target of that project. What wants to do is really to develop a project, it's only a speculative project. So I think there is a part of objective aspects that we can try to homogenize, but it's almost impossible, because we have to put all the world in agreement on that. But also, well, try to really assess these subjective also aspects with an open-minded, and well, not to use the regulation to handicap all this innovation.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a real thing. Nicholas?
If I can add something, I do agree. And also has been really interesting the work that the European Securities and Market Authority did with regard to crypto assets. They did a report for the European Commission, and they interviewed each single national authority, each financial regulator, basically about their interpretation of what is a financial instrument, when a crypto asset is a financial instrument. And you can see the answers are different. So in this field, we really need harmonization in the sense that the token offerings are launched usually worldwide, then okay, you exclude some jurisdiction, for example, the US, given that there the regulatory context is not really favorable, but at least a European company should be able to offer his own token to the whole, let's say, European public. And this is why we need European regulations more than directives, because regulations are self-applicable in all the European Union. So actually the proposal that the European Commission did, in my opinion, goes in the right directive. Then there are some points that can be improved, and probably they also will be improved. The only problem I see is the time, in the sense that the European legislative process is really long, and these things happen fast. And also at European level, they should try to understand they need a bit to speed up.
It's really interesting. A lot of work I do is with ISO, international standards, and they're just producing a report, a technical report that was technical spec on specifying the vocabulary of blockchain and DLT. But you have, a month of meetings saying, should we call it DLT or blockchain or what? Just getting everybody to agree is a first
my
step.
point of view first is, well, being the only non-European born person on stage now, in Europe we have the beer line. So the beer line is where Southern Europe splits with Northern Europe, those who drink beers and those who drink wine. If you go back to 1950 something, when the European Community was built, there were 5 founders that were not Catholic, and the only one was Italy. So there's a huge difference of what these people in Benelux, the UK wasn't there, but especially Benelux, France, Germany, and Italy by the end of the day, the way we behave. So the UK walked out the European Union without being fined during 43 years. Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal get a fine every day, if not more than one. So complying with this and bringing together directives and regulations, as Xavier was saying before, a directive harmonizes the law. And regulation, example, GDPR, is blunt. You have to do this. When you give wing to people, to governments, to give the say to them, as we were saying before, when it comes down to national level, every government bends the law according to the local, whatever. So sometimes the result is not that. So if you approach a Bitcoin, what is it? Is an asset? It is. Is a way of payment? It is. Is a coin? It is. So what the heck is this? Who's gonna tell who is it? And in your home country, in your jurisdiction. So this is more complicated than what it looks like, especially in Europe. UK now is out. They will follow America. And we all want to know, it's just an asset. It's a way of payment. It's a coin. Can be a security. Security laws here do not allow you to launch one as of now. In America, if you fulfill the 3 things, you're okay, you're through. But don't commit mistakes, because there you go jail. Someplace else, you hang around in a yacht, enjoying the money that you collect.
And throw in the sort of complication of it's a speculative investment now as well. It's so, as well as having a function, there's a whole other monetary value possibly to it. I hope that doesn't affect any prices going out today. But I'm also wondering, there's tons of complexity, and yet we are seeing quite fast-moving initiatives across the field, whether it's big banks now get like Goldman Sachs or whatever, actually getting into the crypto space, which they wouldn't have done before. Or you're mentioning earlier countries in the Caribbean, whether it's Bermuda or Bahamas, are getting involved. Where do you think at the moment is the hotspot regionally for what's inspiring us really from a regional point of view in the legal race of regulation?
I
might have a
question.
Sure,
I think nowhere or everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, because I think like what we see right now is adoption worldwide, right? And okay, China stepped out and said, okay, we don't want to have this because it's a threat for our national security and for our communist party ideas. but everybody else is doing it. And I think that's what we can see in the stablecoin market in particular. For example, when you look at last year's numbers, I think we have been like around 5 billion. Now we are like in the 70 billion range only with Tether, which is an unregulated entity, but everybody is using it, right? Like the brokers in Wall Street are using it, and everybody is using it. And I think there you see like the real adoption of blockchain right now. And it's not waiting until like some country comes up and says, yes, it's legal or not. Of course, like for Bitcoin, that's maybe a difference that you accept it as a legal tender, right? But in the end, my point of view is we are in it, and regulation will adopt to it because you cannot move it away.
It's interesting, again, with the ISO work we're involved with, they're doing some of the use cases for blockchain in China and India, which are huge pharmaceutical supply chains or big retail chains. And to your point, it's global now. So
Yes, global.
It's not a financial system, particularly that China and India are talking about, but it is a blockchain infrastructure. So who's going to be leading that supply chain infrastructure on blockchain? We don't know.
Yes, we don't know.
The best spot today is here where we are to start out. But jokes apart, I believe that, again, we'll be looking at each other to see who hits it, our home run, if you want to say this, and we'll be following. But again, adoption, I believe that most of you have been or are involved in a project with blockchain. Blockchain is deployed on the ground. What's missing here? The administration.
Yes.
Under my point of view. If they do not come out, I cannot communicate my blockchain with his in Luxembourg, with him, it's just across the street, or with him who is in Switzerland. So if, like I said before, you have a mobile, here's the bank, here's Hacienda, RES. So just put the blockchain where everybody else can communicate it. You get paid first. They get paid as well, and I'm secure because I know that all transactions that I'm doing with my phone is blockchained. The thing is, no more tax havens. And then comes the question, are everybody ready for this with the Pandora Papers coming out like it did last month? I'm not sure.
I think another interesting topic that we are seeing in Spain is how the banks will position on all these new developments, because they have these mixed feelings between the fear of missing out, what is happening, and it's something that adds up on the turmoil that they are suffering with all the fintech players coming up and scratching part of their businesses. But on the other hand, they don't want to take the risk, no? And you see that the same bank is offering crypto investment for private clients in Switzerland, but when dealing with local clients, they are asking to sign statements that you are not operating with cryptocurrencies. So this kind of mixed feelings. So I think that, and for them, really there is a bunch of services that could be provided, and custody, for instance, which is one of the core businesses based on trust for the financial entities. It could be one of these things, but I think that if they don't move quickly, perhaps they could be displaced in these new developments for these new entrants.
I really agree. Banks are often a problem because they have this fear of missing out, so they want to participate, but still they are really conservative. They don't know much, so like even inside their teams, they don't have the knowledge, the capabilities of understanding the client's projects and so on. And so sometimes they prefer to say no than to try to understand really it. But I actually wanted to come back to something you said earlier with regard to the fact that now blockchain is global.
Yes.
And it's really true, because blockchain is meant to be global. It exists only on the internet, and the internet is transnational by its own characteristics. And so this is really the point, in my opinion. We are reasoning about jurisdictions that have their own boundaries and whatever, but then blockchain is not done in this way. Blockchain is transnational, and then, so you need some degree of international consensus about regulation for sure. But also you need to understand that there is a different paradigm here to try to tackle also on the side of the regulator, because it gives incredible opportunities to people. I'm thinking about people that are unbanked or people that have no stable currencies in their own country, and they can use blockchain. They can even use stable coins. Let's say audited stable coins, and they can also fundraise for their own companies through the issuance of tokens, and they can fundraise globally. So it really gives a huge number of possibilities. Of course, there should be regulation, there should be protection, but it needs to be done in the, let's say, the proper way, in the way that is also enhance this economic development.
Yeah.
May I add something to that? I think as we are the democracy for all events, right? Banks are like central parties who hold actually your cash right now, or your securities. And I think they're like tokens come in because it comes like with self-sovereignty, because you can have, for example, in our cases, we don't open even bank accounts anymore for projects which raise funds on our platform, right? We just have wallets.
Yes.
And we were banging like our heads like for years on the doors of the banks and said, please work with us. And they said, no, it's too risky or whatever. And now we don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
And I think this is like a basic thing like banks need to understand, that the self-sovereignty, that you can have actually your security, but you don't need a custodian to have it, right? Like everybody who invests on our platform, they're like in charge of their own securities, right? And this is like something which is overlooked, I think, over time, and banks just adopt like blockchain, like internally a little bit with like the innovation departments, but they don't see that actually there is a real movement to sovereignty, like investors want to have it, but also issuers of securities want to have it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great tone to end on, really. I think I opened this session talking about how do the incumbents and regulators cope with a decentralized trust framework. And it's happening in multiple ways, but I think there's going to be a continuing stream of work for the lawyers who are experts in this area. So I really wanted to thank you all for amazing comments today. I think we've got a race that's a mixture of sprints and marathons before we reach the nirvana that we want to. But I'm really pleased to have met all these guys today, because the articulation of what you're trying to solve for and how you're helping your clients understand what they need to and how they need to communicate with you as well is really what's bringing adoption through. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.